This was on my table. I had written Eshani, top 50 rank, CSE 2023, FC 99 IAS. So I think some of the lines are true. But I had written this on my table all the time. So what I meant to say is the most raw and real part of my prep was knowing that I'm going to go there some point and be a part of my dream, my aspirations as to who I want to be. So मेरा prelims पहले नहीं हुआ था, despite me doing everything by the book. So 2019 से I studied hard, did so many questions, सब कुछ किया था, gave so many mocks, but I couldn't clear the exam. And I think when I realized this exam is not about knowledge, whatever you know. So I completely changed my thinking. I had come back that day because I knew in those 2 hours I would not clear every question. I made a post-it with a very big paragraph. I had 100 post-its in that 2020 B. I remember the B code. It was a very fat booklet. I had written post-its. This question went wrong because I got scared of this. I couldn't recall the topic, so I went in a frenzy. It was a very detailed paragraph of every question, why I couldn't attempt it. Just how a cookie jar has many cookies. This was theorized by a very famous marathon runner. He said that every time you have very small triumphs in life, you've overcome something very difficult, big or small, put it in your cookie jar. I started afresh because it was in those 2 hours of prelims that I realized everything I'd done in the past year was completely wrong, completely unhelpful, because I didn't know कहाँ से शुरू करना है. Question paper ये समझ नहीं आ रहा. This knowledge is not coming to me. I didn't see PYQs, even though by the book I had done a lot of answer writing. I done a lot of PYQ practice or MCQs and all that. So I think my first prelims completely changed my mindset of the exam.
Hi everyone, Rohit here again. I'm the founder of Civilsdaily, and today I have Eshani with me. She is a ranker, and I've had like 10 minutes before this podcast with her. And I'm going to tell you for sure that this would be a very, very mature podcast. By mature, I mean that she'll give you a sense of what it is to have aspiration. Knowing that your father has been in service, what it is to know a lot about the service, about how state operates, and get the positives with you while you prepare for it. As we go further in the podcast, we'll get to know her whole journey, her graduation from college, things that she kept in mind while she was studying computer science at Anna University, her way of approaching UPSC, the number of attempts it took, and why. And then some quirky questions which are very raw and real. What are your favorite failures like? If you were to be given 5 minutes for the world stage, what would you talk about? If this video were to just 200 million views, what is it that every aspirant should know from you? And so this podcast, we'll keep it raw and real and we'll process it. Okay. So thanks, Eshani, for coming here. We'll start with a question that I haven't primed you for, which is that what has been the most raw and real movement in your UPSC prep with respect to UPSC prep?
So I think I can actually show you this. This was on my table. I had written Eshani, top 50 rank, CSE 2023, FC 99 IAS. So I think some of the lines are true, but I had written this on my table all the time. So what I meant to say is the most raw and real part of my prep was knowing that I'm going to go there some point and be a part of my dream, my aspirations as to who I want to be. And I did an FC 99 because FC 98 I skipped after I got the Indian Revenue Service, and a part of me felt I might be there. Let me put it on pen and paper because it becomes very real. It becomes a solid part of my vision. And so I felt that where I place my energy might be where I place my focus also. That was on my table all the time. So I think a very realistic sense of self.
So this was there on your table all the way.
Always, apart from some other things. A very messy table.
Cool. I love your bookshelf, like I said before. Give me a sense of what I'm assuming you would have a healthy reading habit, right from the childhood. How does this actually hinder in the UPSC prep? Tell me that.
It was very tough to maintain a reading habit. I think in the curve of reading, it would have been exponential since school. It just dipped down very suddenly after UPSC prep. And I didn't mind that, sir, because I didn't want my time to be taken away, maybe visualizing something else in a book. I was okay to not read in the beginning because exam was so difficult to maneuver through. But I maintained this one book called Focus by Daniel Goleman. Because every chapter
Hmm.
he speaks about how you should maintain focus, and if you're not focusing, you're not doing well in a flow state. So that kept bringing me back to the exam. So it was less about reading the book, but I kept reading chapters because I wanted to focus more and more. So I
Okay,
could agree a bit.
there is another book. I don't know if you know, by Russian or a Russian psychologist called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It's called Flow, and he talks about states of being when people perform their best and how do you keep getting into that state. And I think he's interviewed, a wide variety of folks who've been at
Yes,
their peak game.
yes, sir.
Good to learn from that. But yeah, Daniel Goleman is mostly known to the aspirants for their emotional intelligence wala book, right?
Yes, sir. And
Which brings
focus
me
is
to
very similar to that.
cool. I will recommend it to the kids who come. Which brings me to an important point. Your father is an IAS. You're from Haryana, but you're based out of Tamil Nadu since the childhood. Uh, and you've seen services like from the ground zero, right? And you told me that it was that kind of an aspiration that I have to do something big, something much more than me, and I have to put myself into that, which guided you for the UPSC prep. What are some of the things, some of the officer like qualities, or some of the real, raw and real stuff from your dad which you've seen, which kind of has stayed with you? That this is what I need to be. This is the ideal, headspace to be in.
Mm. So that is true. I did have a latent socialization about the services. I think my vocabulary at home was very related to bureaucracy. We moved a lot as well. My father wouldn't bring his work home, and I think that really taught me because it means he maintained equanimity all the time. I'm sure there was so many pressures in the job from perhaps media and other stakeholders, but he came back being very stable. So maybe I thought the qualities an officer should have is emotional intelligence. I know GS4 mein aata hai, but it's a very important quality because I also feel that if I didn't have EQ in my life, I wouldn't be here. So I feel like emotional intelligence is something that I think bureaucrats should have. So, but apart from that, I did read about divergent thinking, and I put two and two when I saw my father also finding solutions in life. Because throughout the prep, when we are writing socio-political, economic causes and factors, it's not just to present a good answer, but every issue is so complicated and multidimensional. You cannot just have a one-track mindset. So I feel like divergent thinking, being humble to take different views and knowing a very broad perspective of any issue, real issue, let's say it could be unfortunate caste violence or a law and order problem or disaster or whatever be, you need divergent thinking and emotional stability. So I think these are the two qualities I thought on the field I saw, and I also would want to imbibe.
Nice. Would you have any example top of your mind on that? On the second part of divergent thinking, how do you match two streams of thought to come to a solution, or how are you more open to the people and their opinions, and finally come to a solution? Easier said than done, honestly.
So it is easier said than done, but perhaps in divergent thinking, I do remember when 2004 tsunami had happened. So there was a project to go on the field to the coastal districts, and many times the people were not ready to vacate their homes, and it's a very valid reason because they wouldn't want to leave their habitation. So that was a major problem, and how to tackle food packets coming in, giving it to people, and communicating it with them. Also on the field, practically there is perhaps some sort of distrust in officials also. How do we sort that out? So the 3-4 problems, and of course the issues of loss of infrastructure, economy. So the thinking is not simply moving people from one place to another, but how does an officer build trust and create a collective there and tell the people that we are here to serve you, help you, and take you to a better place, and we will bring you back safely. It is very easy to write this in GS3 certs. These are the points we should do, but practically a divergent thinker can only make it happen. But apart from this, if you cannot interpret that people will feel difficult to leave homes, you are not practicing empathy or compassion also. How can you not have an other regarding attitude on the field and still call yourself an officer? So I feel that divergent thinking is understanding technical issues, but also very other regarding attitude. And that's how your brain opens up to different solutions, sir.
That's so nice. And how does one come about to imbibe these qualities as part of them? I mean, so honestly speaking, we don't get to hear a lot about this level of headspace that officers have from the media, right? We consume very superficial stuff about the bureaucracy from the media, and it's not that rosy as of date in this year and age. Did your dad ever speak about, look at this, focus on this, and give examples and anecdotes of his life where it was difficult for him to maintain that composure, but he knew the right thing to do?
That's a good question, because these qualities may not be innate, but I think he told me to always be humble. And humble doesn't just mean giving up the seat. It means learning from everyone around you all the time. Even today, he does this. So learning from the people, learning from officers, maybe subordinate to you, and your seniors. So if you learn their experiences, you will know which way to proceed. Humility is not just about learning, sir, but also when you are in a situation, you know that you are not the be all and end all. You're an enabler of that place. So I think he did tell me that if you remain humble, well-read, and understanding situations, it's always easier to be in the field and also think of solutions. So
I'm going to go deeper into this, okay, because it's very exciting for me to have someone who has had some first-hand experience, at least second-hand experience of that. In this day and age where we feel being assertive will get the work done faster, or being aggressive gets the work done faster, you see a certain kind of leadership waiting on that. How do you maintain a humble presence? How do you maintain an open space where divergent views do come in? Any example in your life that you've seen, or your dad's, or anyone else, your dad's colleagues, anyone else who kind of gave you a glimpse of that? Yeah, this is a difficult thing to do, but a worthy thing to do. Otherwise, your problem solved me hoti, and I would have gone back, and it would have been a method. It would have been just like a band-aid solution and not a really long one.
Yes, so there are a lot of situations I can see. I am reminded of a colleague. She's a female officer. And she did understand that the tribal farmers of Nilgiris were not getting their market due, and it was a very commercial space. So she did create and develop this thing called Indigo Serve. We can go find it on Google also. Indigo Serve is a farmer collective for tribal farmers of Nilgiris. But very interestingly, it's not what I was enamored by was that we would think of a garment product as being very trite, as being very banal perhaps, but there was a lot of focus on marketing, making the product look so beautiful for the consumer and selling it across markets. So I feel like when you're humble, your divergent thinking also knows that it's not enough to create a product and find a market, but if it's a garment product, how do we market in a way that it can match the market expectations also? And so that view also I was enamored by. I think just being ready and knowing, again, sir, forcing a lot of problems, finding solutions which are very practical is something that I find can be humbling, sir, on the field.
That is so nice. I'll tell you one which I'm reminded of. I was in Bangalore for a while, and I was working with a company, a social VC fund called Social Alpha for a while. And one of the kids, and the funder there was that, you come up with a business idea or something that solves a social problem, and it should be sustainable, right? So these kids were trying to solve the problem of education and the attendance in schools, right? And not the attendance, right? They were trying to solve the problem of engagement with the kids. Ki aap teacher bata rahi hai, and are kids even getting it or not? Can there be a quick assessment? And this guy develops a QR code. So if you put a QR code on a copy, you can have 4 orientation, right? You price, 90-degree ke alag orientation over, right? And if a teacher asks an MCQ, kids can, put up their copy. Ki, Acha, A hai to aise, B hai to aise, and instantly mobile will record, like, video would record kya answer hai. And he came up with this genius idea, which wasn't getting accepted. Because teachers were like worried about the instant feedback ho gaya, to the principal or the system will know kya padhaya, kya nahi padhaya, right? You can imagine, right? And then this genius comes up with saying, okay, you know what? I can reduce your attendance taking time, because the same QR code can be known for, just one flash, and you will know everyone who's present, who's not. And so that's how he got entry into some of the government schools. Creatively thought, and there was a bureaucrat involved in getting this thing done, because that person knew that this needs to be done, but there was problem with the ground staff, and so there was the crack. And
that's been very real. Being real with the problem. Right. We call it raw and real. It's being very real and aware.
It's being absolutely real.
So just I want to mention one more based on what you said. I did come across a female officer. She started this project called Project Chachi box, which means there were so many girls in her district who didn't know how menstruation works and what was the problem. And she knew realistically this is a taboo. We cannot simply have teachers just giving classes alone. So she created this box in every school, and girls would put questions through chits. Kya karna hai, what is it, and all of that, and they would have sessions based on these questions. So in a way, there is privacy, there's confidentiality, but also the message comes across. So like you said, knowing realistically what's happening on the field, even if it's a taboo, it might be a difficult conversation, but being real about it is what I'm able to learn. So
Nice. Okay, two things. Now, have you read books by officers, retired or otherwise in service, where they kind of explain or write about the district that they were in, and very real stories that they faced? Have you read any books?
Sir, I have nothing in detail that I can recall, but I have read a lot of criticism on bureaucracy by senior bureaucrats. I have read one, I have read another on a culmination of female officers, what they were facing on the field, just an essay book. So I have read a couple of them, but not so much in detail.
Okay, and since you are enamored by some of these good works done by officers and you know them to a good detail, are there any top of your head stuff that you would want to do? Let's say you get back in a district, things that you've seen or things that you feel that can be done differently with slightly different creative thought and the backing of the state.
So I think my approach would be very people oriented. I would go with inspections much often and understand myself what's going on. This would be an external approach because I have also done anthropology, and that did change a lot of me because anthropology is based on participant observation. They want the culture, they want the real perspective. They talk to people. I think it's as simple as that. Talk to people in the homes. What is their problem? First few conversations, they may not like you because they might think that the institution is so large, it's not for, but you create that rapport with them, tell them this is who I am, we will do it together in their local languages. This would be my approach, nuance of my approach. Internally, sir, I would try to understand the cogs in the office, to understand how do things work. Is digitization a problem? A lot of this, just to keep things a bit more smoother. But a big understanding of internal, external work cultures is something I would focus on, sir.
Nice. I'm reminded of two things now. And this conversation, by the way, flows like this. Okay. One, I read about TN Session a long time back, and I read that, apart from him being an election commissioner of India back then, he was also once given a charge of, I think, GTC. And he drove the bus. He literally went and he drove the bus to understand the plight of the drivers, kya phase. And he drove a circuit to know कि अच्छा ये से ये हुआ फिर यहाँ पे ये. And so he went very raw and real in his job to understand exactly what it takes to revive or improve or take suggestion, etc. That's very, very nice. Dusra, you mentioned anthro. And these days I'm somehow interacting with rankers who have given anthro, and they have a lot of real ideas. This is, the ideas what we think in cubicle versus what actually are there in the ground are different. And unless you have the eye and the heart for that, it's slightly different. And I was listening to a podcast. There's a famous podcast called The Seen and the Unseen by Amit Verma. He got Ramchandra Guha on that podcast. And Ram Guha mentioned about a book that he had written a long while back, which was in the life of, let me just look up, Elvin Verrier. The book name is Savaging the Civilization. Yeah, Savaging the Civilized. This guy, Elvin Verrier, was, I think, a Brit who came to India long back for, the conversions and stuff. But he stayed in India in a tribe. He married two tribe women. And he stayed the course of time. And in doing that, he was like close to Nehru also back in that day. So he was like that guy. Right. And he wrote a very big book. Ram Goa wrote on his life. In a way of telling us that, once you have your head and heart in the ground and you listen to the people, a lot of new observations come to you, which otherwise your trained mind will, just circuit out because of the biases you've been trained with. So that's great. One thing about,
I think you need to shed your background, you need to shed who you are, what you know, what is ABC, this is the method. It does not work like that. On the field, things are so multidimensional things. This is when you ask me how to stay humble, this is the answer. You need to shed your background. You are not, the solution cannot be from your mindset. You cannot see another person from your cultural point of view. It ties down to humility, divergent thinking, making changes on the field.
Okay, so I know the stuff that you got from your dad and his colleagues around. In these years of preparation, when you actually sat for UPSC, what are some of the things that either you did or you came across which gave you completely, new belief system? Or what are some of these new belief system or new habits which kind of gave you a new twist to life? Preparation karte, things that you came across and you're like, oh, this is it. And so you're a different person now.
I think at the end of so many years of preparation, we all become philosophers in our own right. We have a system, we become so prepared for everything. But it's been a journey, sir. But to answer your question, I think I'm reminded of something I had read called the cookie jar concept. just how a cookie jar has many cookies. This was theorized by a very famous marathon runner. He said that every time you have very small triumphs in life, you've overcome something very difficult, big or small, put it in your cookie jar. It means you could either write about it, make small post-its, you could do something, and then whenever you feel down, you go back to it because it's a reminder that you can overcome things. Because resilience is not jargon, it is more about habits. It's more about overcoming something. Your brain is like a muscle, so it gets resilient over time. So I think the cookie jar kept me going, and I'm a
So
very
you maintain
writer.
one?
Yes, sir.
You maintain one?
Yes, I did have
Okay.
journaling. I write a lot. So I think pen to paper is something which is very comfortable for me. So I did write a lot. For example, small successes like maybe maintaining a good diet, also journaling. I took up Rubik's Cube. So solving a cube in a day, that was a small triumph for me. Or a bigger one, clearing mains someday or something of that sort. So the cookie jar concept kept me going, sir.
Cool. Awesome. I made a note for this. So this year what we're doing, so we run a mentorship program as against to the normal classroom program. And this year we got the rank 2 from that program, and he got the rank while he was preparing. And I had a 3-hour long dinner with him like 2 days back. And I wanted to understand from him what kept him going, like the smallest things, which could be so childlike to a lot of other folks, but things which really, really helped him. And, I think, and then what we want to do is that this year we want to design the whole mentorship cohort in a way that, theek hai, padhai likhai to aap kar hi loge, but these interventions need to be in place so that that momentum and that zeal keeps going up by one or the other intervention. So cookie jar, is on the list then. That's really good. So this is one of the habits which kind of, kept you in good state, right? Improved your life or your journey in a way.
Okay. It sounds nice. So the cookie jar is sweet. So my journey was sweet, but I've had a lot of low points. Sour cookies also, but I made sure I wrote everything.
Okay. So on that note, what's the favorite kind of failure that you had, or the favorite low point that you've had in your journey?
I can think of two that I have failed prelims once. So I think my first prelims completely changed my approach. It was like my mind had gone on refresh mode, completely closed all tabs, and I started afresh because it was in those 2 hours of prelims that I realized everything I'd done in the past year was completely wrong, completely unhelpful, because I didn't know kahan se shuru karna hai. Question paper, ye samajh nahi aa raha, this knowledge is not coming to me. I didn't see PYQs, even though by the book I had done a lot of answer writing. I done a lot of PYQ practice or MCQs. And all that. So I think my first prelims completely changed my mindset to the exam. And if I had cleared by some fluke, I may have fallen harder some other level, some other year. So I think that kept me, I think I'm very glad for that failure, sir. So that is one. But second is a very different sort of failure because it didn't result in failure of the exam. I did come out with flying colors, but it was a very disappointing point for me. So before my first interview, I was very scared, even though I have done public speaking in school. I also had a radio show in class 8, a very small precocious channel. So I should not have been ideally very scared, but I was my worst self before the interview. Very scared, very anxious, because you move from a bat cave preparation, so solitary, so alone, to a stage preparation where everyone is watching you, interview there, your panel baitha hai, your bare bones there. So I think that transition sunk so much in UPSC Bhavan. I was not my best self before the interview. Somehow the board made me cordial, but after the interview, I was very upset with myself that I didn't contain myself so well. It should have been a better interview for me. But then I realized never let your last minute demons take over ever for anything in life. So I think these are the 2 failures for me, sir.
Okay, let's double click on each of them. First of all, how much did you get in that interview where you
I got 182, sir. I got 182.
Okay, it's decent, not that bad.
So, but again,
but let's come to the first. No, I mean, I can understand. You have your own standards and things that you expect from yourself, and that happens. Let's come to the first one. How was it that you said that, you realized that whatever you did in 1 year for the prelims prep was completely not the right tone that you should have picked up? You, assuming are a aware person, you went to an university, you did CS, you wanted to do UPSC, and Google is everything these days. So, and Topper stocks are just, next click. So what just went wrong? Like what just went wrong in that first year of prelims prep?
So,
Was it exam temperament, or was it like completely not understanding the demand of the paper, and like anything that you can tell?
it was both of these. So, I've always
Okay.
told this to myself. When you enter UPSC preparation, it's like a Diwali night sky. There's so much going on, crackers everywhere, noise aa rahi hai. It's just so confusing, and it's yet so endless. So you have coaching classes, textbooks, topper talks, ye karo, wo karo, 9 papers, competitors. You have statistics like such less percentage clear the exam. So you get lost in this external cacophony. I think that was my problem. I did not go internal. I did not think my approach for each question. I did not have a strategy in mind. I should have thought more. Why am I not thinking along these lines for this question, for a modern history question or a polity or a current affairs question? So I did not go internal at all. I was doing what toppers told me. I was doing what I had to study. And I think that was my biggest problem. Because in the 2 hours, it's just me. The outside doesn't matter. That was a big problem. So I developed this in my subsequent attempts. I had come back that day because I knew in those 2 hours I would not clear. Every question I made a post-it with a very big paragraph. I had 100 post-its in that 2020 B. I remember the B code. It was a very fat booklet. I had written post-its. This question went wrong because I got scared of this. I couldn't recall the topic, so I went in a frenzy. It was a very detailed paragraph of every question, why I couldn't attempt it. And every time I go for prelims, hopefully until the last attempt, I went through it to never go back to that phase. So that was such a raw and real moment for me in my exam.
That is indeed, yes. Do you still have that post-it block?
Yes, I do. I'll try to send you a picture later on. It's with me, sir. It's my Bible.
We often say that this exam teaches you so much about yourself that very few life situations have the power and the authority to, teach you. You mentioned that you did not go internal with the preparation. Like, can you expand on that so that the people who watch, because the way Raw and Real is done is that most of these problems would be shared by a lot of other folks who do not know that the mistake they're making today would cost them an attempt, or if not the attempt, that will give them a regret which they would not love to have. Like, regret is the worst thing to have, right? If you knew something needs to be done and you don't do it, that's the regret which kills you. It just silences the mood. So, kya matlab hai internal nahi gaye the?
I think I understand what you mean, sir. When I said external, let's chalk it down. External means societal pressure. Exam is so competitive. If I clear, then relatives will be happy. Somebody else will be happy. Oh, this is a pressure for me. Second stakeholder is coaching classes and the material. There is so much online. It completely befuddles you. You don't know where to start. Third could be, let's say, peers. Peers are doing something different. Someone is at a better level at answer writing. Someone brings a different copy some other day. And even toppers in that way. There's so much information everywhere. So I think we are running in this rat race only focusing on these 4 or 5 people. But have we ever sat and thought, why am I writing the answer starting with this statistic? Why am I writing socioeconomic, political? Why should my structure be body, conclusion, introduction, and so and so and so? So to just elaborate on this, when I started my ethics preparation, questions like, what would you do? How would you feel? So quotations and questions the, I did not see any topper copy on that. I would have written 5 pages on what I felt that quotation was on. And that's how my ethics preparation began. And that day I realized I can be at ease with what I know in this examination. I did not see topper's copy. I did not have quotations for that topic. I didn't have examples also. So to nuance it for you, I think I had a very strong sense of self that I will do what I feel like doing. I'm not answerable to a topper or to my peer or to a coaching class or anything. I will take assistance without a doubt. That's completely fine, but I'm doing it for myself. Many times the reason I showed you the paper is because it was a vibe for me. This was why I want to do something. It was not to impress anyone, not to do it for my parents or society or for laurels, but because I knew this is something I genuinely wanted to do. And I could stick with that. So internal means talk to yourself, understand yourself more. Don't be fearful of failures and don't be fearful of kya likhna hai, kaise likhna hai. We keep asking how to top us, but we don't ask ourselves. We may have all the answers also. That's what I mean by that, sir.
Okay. And when you start on this path and when you kind of start to follow the tune in your head, do you not look for attestation outside? Like, is it just you chart a path, you keep going? No reason for look for external validations then? I'm asking you this because another student of ours, I'm forgetting the name, she scored very topmost on the essays. And she said, I completely broke all the fundas which coaching or which old toppers say. ठीक है, अगर उस ऐसे में साइकोलॉजी सोशियोलॉजी जिस मर्जी के एस्पेक्ट आया मैं लिखा वहां पे उसको and she used to get very low marks in the mocks. You know, our copies were checked by, you know, us and other folks, and we were like, nahi aise nahi karna hai, you don't have to stick to what UPSC demands. And she said, I didn't care, I'll follow. And she got the highest in the essay. And I should have remembered her name, but what you said just resonated with that. So how do you get the validation, or what, or you don't need it, or have you failed enough to kind of now know that, yeah, this is the only way, there's no other way I'll be
I think just to elaborate on that, I feel that validation is different from assistance. Validation means to increase your self-worth, you always look outside, and there can never be enough of that. Nobody on the outside can make you feel who you are. So what I mean is, showing essays to another person, a topper or a stakeholder, a coaching class, is completely important. They should be able to understand your essay, but they shouldn't be the one saying, until they say आपका अच्छा है, आपको अच्छा लग रहा है. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. You should be happy कि मैंने अपनी approach खुद बनाई है, like the topper that you mentioned, and then we can show other people to get assistance from. So I feel that validation for self-worth should not be just external. It can never be enough of that. That's the problem. We will always be looking outside.
No, makes sense, and I agree. And so you did that with prelims, and then mains came, and I think you couldn't get through the next mains.
I didn't clear, sir. I was celebrating that I cleared prelims because something had clicked in me. So the same process. So I think this time I saw all the papers जिसमें गलती हुई थी. I went back to my question paper. I wrote every point that this is right, this is wrong. And then I started doing PYQs, answer writing, showing it to people. So like I said, I don't think I have, I knew I could write good answers, but I didn't know how to present them well. Can it be shown in my paper that in those 2 sheets, the examiner loves it. He gets an idea of who I am. He gets a mirror of Eshani in the paper. And that's what I learned in my subsequent mains attempts. It is a reflection of you wholeheartedly, not just your handwriting, but how are you thinking of the question? What is your process? And that's something you may apply in the field also, a divergent mindset. So I think in my mains, I went internal. I don't think I have seen toppers copies so much to take notes from or statistics, but I've taken assistance. I went very internal in my mains also, sir.
Okay, give me an example. No, this sounds so nice and it sounds so refreshing. Just if you recollect anything from your mains, the one you wrote, give me a sense of a question and how you approached versus how. Just tell me how you approached.
There are so many questions of which I had gone wrong. But anthropology paper 1 mein tha on phylogenetic status of Homo erectus. That was a long question, 2021 mains. First of all, they have different weightages, the 2 parts of the question. That I wasn't aware of. And number 2, I think I had put too much information, made it look so cluttered. While I was writing my points, I said, how did this even fit in a 4-page answer? So I was a bit confused with a lot of this. So I wrote all the points. I said, I wrote it in rough in the question paper. Then I wrote it again at home. I said, Homo erectus, I will start with this. I'll draw a diagram here. I will change the page. I'll give some breathing space to the examiner also. And then I would check the weightages. Which part should get more? So I think this sort of internalization I was able to do, sir.
Okay, anything from the GS paper? Anything from the GS paper that you remember?
So GS in many ways, it went well. I'm trying to think of something. On modern history, wait up, so to recall something. It might come to me, I'll let you know.
On that note, let's shift to another question. What are some of the bad recommendations that you heard about UPSC Prep in a journey?
That I would not...
some of the bad recommendations which are abound, but not regret, but some of the bad recommendations that some you followed some and you're like, nahi, ye to nahi
hai. So I think the over-reliance on coaching, peers and toppers alone. This is not okay. Because this is what we hear of. Because even though I had made ethics, I had taken a topper's copy, I always made sure that 40% was my own examples, because I want to appear unique from the person before and after me. It's completely okay if you want to take coaching, you make notes out of it, but how do you make it your own? Enrich it yourself from papers, from magazines, and go gung-ho if you wish to make it a better copy. So I feel that it is important, but don't be over-reliant on just these 3 alone. Always make something of yourself in these papers. in these different ways.
So go internal. I think everything that you're saying essentially is just go find yourself, go find it.
No, sir, I think here I mean to be a bit more original, because that will be lauded by the examiner also. I don't want to quote the same thinker in every ethics, so I went on my own, and that's how I developed, I think, Stoic philosophers. I found examples from Commonwealth, sports personality. I put a lot of something a conductor had done somewhere in a remote part of India in my ethics answers. A lot of different examples, sir. So it was not, I felt good about my ethics preparation.
How much did you score on the ethics?
I've scored 120 plus in all my attempts. Generally around that 110 to 120.
I kind of know the answer to the next question, but I still ask: how was what is some of the most unusual, quirky habits that you had in your preparation, which helped you, which you wouldn't recommend to everyone, but they kind of stayed with you? One of them would be this writing and post-its for all the But what are some of the other unusual stuff which you did, and which kind of was your X factor?
If it's unusual, but I will try to speak of two. I have a habit of letter writing. So I would write letters about my 3-4 months of very difficult work, how I'm feeling, to some of my pen pals. My grandmother was one of them. Some of my friends abroad. So I have a good habit of letter writing. So I would do that. I would make my stationery very beautiful, and I love doing this. So I did that. And I took up cubing because I wanted something which was just enough.
What's that?
Cubing, sir. I do have cubes
on
my table. So because they're just enough fatigue intellectually that you want to sleep and start studying. So I took up cubing and I did letter writing. So this was something I did to keep myself going.
Nice. And when you talked about your friends abroad, you reminded me of that you went to an exchange program in Spain.
Yes.
And you mentioned that was one of the most not that easy phase of your life. Can you tell us more about that? So you were doing computers at Anna. And then for an exchange semester or so, you went to Spain. And then what happened?
I think life was going well until my second year, but I felt it was going too well and maybe too monotonous. I really wanted a very different perspective in life, and perhaps I like challenges. So I felt that I will apply for an exchange program, which I got. But I didn't realize that there was very less English support in Spain because they speak Spanish predominantly, and they did not have many classes in English speaking sessions also. So my classes happened in Spanish. Perhaps Google Translate was my savior and champion at that point, but I could make out some of the terminologies because these are technical subjects, and I would be prodding my teachers every day. So I started with a 4 CGPA and came back with 9.4 that semester. So I think that was a very difficult challenge. But beyond that, I realized that I'm put in a different culture, different language, different challenges. It is not easy. Nobody's coming to save me from this. And I've taken that challenge. And perhaps this is what I thought an IAS officer also does. They also sit in a different culture, very different from their own. They need to maneuver these sort of challenges, perhaps a different culture. So I felt that maybe I am ready for the exam. I can prove myself, maybe get my armors ready, and perhaps come back and do it at some point. So that experience was very hard, but it changed me a lot as a person.
That was such a pivotal experience in your life that gave you so much,
yes.
like a, interesting.
So because every day
tell me more about it. So how was it? What really did help you there? Like beyond the technical things, like what did you do to just get in the zone of things?
Sir, I started.
Were you the only exchange student? Were you the only? Oh, you okay? Were you the only exchange student that time?
There was another friend of mine, so she also came with me. Just the two of us, making our own life in Valencia.
Okay, and that's when you started the cookie jar thing.
Yes, I started there, sir, because I'm so confused every morning what to do, whom to talk to. The signage is different. People are friendly, but I wasn't able to communicate. I really felt that I had started from scratch. So I did my cookie jar there. I made good friends abroad who then finally understood me and spoke in English also, some of them. So then it was that. So the cookie jar kept me going.
Okay, so the Money Heist show, did you watch in the original language or did you watch the English version?
Sir, I think I can understand Latin music quite well. I still recall the vocabulary. So.
Okay, nice. I probably know one part of the answer to the next question, but tell me, whenever you felt overwhelmed, unfocused, or you temporarily lost your focus, what would you do or what questions would you ask of yourself? I know one is the cookie jar thing. You probably would look back at it again.
I would look back
But
at that.
what else? Like, what other rituals or activities would you do to get back
Well, if
into the
it
zone
was
again?
just a bad day, then I would take a walk. I started boxing, so that helped me a lot get over that frustration. I would
Okay.
talk to my parents. So I think my father has taught me about just doing your work and not stopping it ever. So I think that was one thing. But I do want to mention another thing. I'm a very big fan of the poem called "Don't Quit" by Greenleaf. He's a poet. A very interesting poem. He says that it may seem that it's very far, but that just means it's very close. So a lot of these things kept me going, and I did see this channel called Ben Lionel Scott a lot. He has very vigorous motivational videos of 2 to 3 minutes. They spur you a lot. School of Life. So I think I again saw a lot of videos
Hmm.
to motivate
Hmm.
myself.
Do share some of these links now when you find time later.
Yes.
There's an interesting poem I'd recommend to you if you've not read, and I'm forgetting. It's T.S. Eliot, and I just remember one line of that poem. When spirits rises in command, the gods are ready to obey. I mean, it's like a whole poem. It's slightly on the motivation side, and it ends with this: that do whatever you want to do. Don't give up, because when you speak from inside,
Yeah.
everyone will have to obey. I think, and the way, I mean, poems, the way they put things are just like bomb next to
Yes.
this stuff, right? Great. I think you Okay, so your preparation would be monotonous, right? Because UPSC only can tend to be monotonous. There are data,
Mhm.
and then there's so much of jugglery around this and that.
Yes.
And like you said, it's a Diwali in a way. How did you used to hedge yourself from preparation? What else did you do in the last like 4 years of journey apart from prep?
So, like you said, it was just constant daily static, but I took up hobbies like cubing. I would do boxing, and I would talk to some of my good friends who knew what I was going. I kept a very small supportive bubble, just 2 or 3 really good friends who knew what I was doing, non-UPSC, my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I also have a dog
Oh,
who
okay.
kept me going because we've spent a lot of 2 a.m.s, 3 a.m.s together, and it just feels good that you're not the only one awake the entire world at that time. But I think a very good supportive system. But I chose a supportive system, the ones who should be in my life, who should keep me going, whose noise I don't want, whom I'm not answerable to. I think that was very important for me, sir.
Okay. Yes. So you chose the things around you for the time of your preparation. Like you may put your meticulous head to pick what and let go of things, which I think is a very rare thing which people can achieve. It's theoretical, theory में काफी सही लगता है, but very few people are able to
Hmm.
pull it off, and that took consistently for years on years.
Yes, I have to
Right,
apologize to everyone for not making time and appointments ahead.
right. Is that something which you would? So, what are the few things that you would recommend to a beginner who's listening to you today? And let's say coming from any background, what are the few non-academic essential things that a person should do? This, I believe, is one of the most important ones that you need to choose who you want to stay in touch with.
Yes.
We keep hearing these cliche proverbs, right? You're the average of the 5 people you talk to, but this
Mm,
is the time it holds true, right?
We
So I'm
ask,
believing one of them is this.
yeah.
What else would you recommend?
Having a non-academic hobby is also very important. It is not easy because we have so much to study, but there is always something we can do. It could be origami, it could be a walk, could just be cubing like I took, it could be something very solitary. But I think a physical activity is also recommended because I do feel if your body feels good, the mind also does. So I feel like trying to have a hobby is also very important. And I would say, sir, something that allows you to be raw and real with yourself. You could do journaling. Maybe you could have a
Hmm.
podcast with yourself, talk to yourself, write about it. Also,
Have a
Victor
podcast with
Frankl.
yourself.
Yes, sir. I know a lot of people who do voice memos and keep regurgitating because not a lot of people are writers. So talk to yourself.
Right,
Perhaps you can visualize yourself giving a Civilsdaily talk or something to keep the dream running. So my point is
right,
a
right.
good habit externally, something a physical activity or a hobby, and keeping a very good support system. But most importantly, Diwali sky is going to be so bright and noisy. So always make sure that this is your approach. You will stick to it. If it doesn't work, quickly change the methods. That is something I would like to say, sir.
Okay, two questions. Did you have a plan B? Um, or were you going, if you wouldn't have gotten to any of the services, was there a plan B, or you would have kept trying? Or what?
Given I think my parents were very supportive. So fortunately, I didn't have the pressure. I did have the freedom to choose when I wished to stop the exam. But I think in 2021, when I did not clear my mains, I did have a doubt. Is it really a courageous dream, or is it stupidity to think that I could be qualified in the exam? Because I wasn't having a successful spell at that time. So I did think about MBA. I wrote the CAT exam also. I wrote the IFT exam. So I did write all of these exams, but I was very disheartened writing them. I didn't feel like this was my true calling. So I knew much more surely that this is not what I want to do. I did crack IIFT and IIM Kozhikode, but then I did think in my mind, if you're going taking your car in one path, would you really take a U-turn and go somewhere else? How would you feel once you reach another destination? So it was a very difficult 4 or 5 days when these results came out, but I kept going in this path. I did have a plan B, though. I perhaps may have gone for MBA if not for this.
Okay. And you mentioned about, I mean, I think the recurring theme of this podcast is that you need to go internal. I mean, otherwise, if you're success, you might just be lucky or you'll fail flat. And I know from experience that the first few days or the first few brushes of going raw and real are very, very challenging. It's difficult to see for yourself who you really are.
Very true.
Right. And unless you have a support system, and by support system, I mean, unless you have someone who has the wisdom to guide you, either that or you're like so driven yourself, ab jo bhi hoga dekha jayega. It's not that easy to keep up at it.
Not at all.
So how were you able to be raw and real? How were you able to keep that thing?
I think my parents always taught me that all this is God given. There is no reason for you to think that the world owes you something. So I think they have kept me a humble person, a humble learner, and I feel grateful for that. That could be a major reason why I feel like I can go raw and real. I also do some reading, so I know I'm not the only one who's going this raw, this real. I'm able to rationalize why I'm feeling something. For example, when Daniel Goleman says that focus is very tough or there's so much going around, I also feel, yes, focus is very hard. So now I know I'm not the only one. So I think reading a lot of this and knowing that it's still not over. The journey is not over. UPSC is not the end of a journey. Now I'm beginning something. Always feeling like the best is yet to come. I think this has been my philosophy for a long time. So I would recommend that even though it's hard to go raw and real, you are only true to yourself. So that's the only person that you can ever be, is what I would like to say. It's worth taking that journey, sir.
No, fair. And so when you take the journey internally, I mean, that sense would go into selecting the kind of people you would surround yourself with as well, right? Because you can't have it, right? In a way, you would egg other people also to keep it real with you, or kind of bear with the real you, in a manner of speaking. So I get the parents carry karenge, they have to, and you get good parents, it's all the more better. But you had set of friends, colleagues who were keeping it raw and real for themselves as well.
Yes.
Was it like that? Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, so I have a wonderful set of friends who have been happier for me than I have been happy for myself with the result. They denounced my problems. I sometimes felt, am I becoming too weepy with you? I'm so sorry. But they said, no, you can keep going. It's okay. The exam is tough. We know it. So I'm very grateful to them for what they've done. They've been raw and real with themselves in their lives. I think that was a way that we could percolate and really connect on these qualities also.
Yeah, I honestly think you're blessed that way, Shani. We try to get these things done for our students, and we quickly realize, that the problem, sometimes it starts from the house, sometimes it's with their upbringing, sometimes with the college, and sometimes with the inability to cut out or drown out the noise around that, doesn't let people go raw and real inside. So with these sessions, the idea honestly is just, it is possible, it is challenging, but it's totally worth it, because nothing else really matters. Everything else that you hear from a rosy platform is not the real thing. Only rankers open up their heart and tell you, it's challenging and I couldn't do it, but I knew it's worthy, so I kept trying. That's what will egg everyone. Animesh, for that matter, when he came to us after results, he said that I just went to mental health, my counseling yesterday. कि क्या होगा अगर result नहीं आएगा सही और वगैरह वगैरह, right? And he used to go twice a week. And he made it so matter of fact. It was so nice to hear him say that. That let us think, yeah, we should have some interventions in our mentorship program, that because these are the real things. Aap content le loge, mocks kar loge, but these are the things which make or break an attempt. So the last question to you is, you mentioned about the cookie jar, which is a very specific thing. Journaling, I know people recommend to everyone, but वो फिर वही होता है जिसके बस का होता है वो लेता है. Internal podcasting is something we'll recommend to people. What are some of the other interesting frameworks that you came across from the books that you read or your friends, which kind of helped you take a stock of yourself? Okay, this is who I am at this point of time, and this is where I want to go. Something which, if you remember now or later, doesn't matter.
So if I see my journey, I did not have a map to go from place A to B. I'd failed. It has been the most cliche journey, I feel, because I failed A and failed A2 and failed. Wouldn't say failed, but crossed A3, then I've come back again. So it's not, no two levels have happened subsequently easily for me. So I have read, there's this approach called tenacity versus hard work approach. Hard work and perseverance means we keep going at it, we don't let go. But tenacity, a tenacious person is someone who is also perseverant but never repeats a mistaken approach. So when I was asking myself through my life, am I tenacious or hardworking or perseverant? I want to be tenacious in this exam. I want to know that I made a mistake, I have learned from it, and I won't repeat it. I might make new ones, and that's completely fine. Maybe in this attempt also I've made a couple of mistakes, but I want to be tenacious. Hard work and perseverance, yes, but more tenacious. So I think this is something I would like to share with people. There is a difference, and everyone can be, even though there is maybe a difficult background or difficult friend circle or something, but you are the charioteer, so we can take our destiny in our hands.
Nice, yeah. I mean, I absolutely love this chat, and I'm so happy that I did not.
I do share tenacity and hard work a lot, so it's a very personal, close philosophy that I share.
Yeah, and I think if you are tenacious, then by that if you really are that, then your self-awareness has to be sky high, because you cannot repeat old mistakes, like you said. You have to be aware in every moment, present in a way of sorts. And if you're doing mock in UPSC parlance, and then you're rechecking what you did, you have to be writing, you have to be always thinking, kya. So your notes of self-evaluation were this deep, this dense, I thought this, but I got this, etc.
Yes, certainly. So very deep, very long sentences, very Pride and Prejudice sort of very large sentences. So they were very deep. So I think I went quite deep, very self-aware.
How many diaries do we have in total? What's your stack? What does your stack look like? If you can just shift, the camera.
No, so they're not in a very easily visible place. But I love to buy a lot of pretty diaries. So in fact, all my gifts from my friends are diaries only, or from my family also. So
okay. What are some of the good brands who are making good papers? Tell me. I know Paperclip.
So Paperclip, Doodle is very nice, but I think I like to purchase local handmade books also from Tribes India portal. A lot of these are also very pretty papers. So from Auroville, for example, I purchased a book which is from their own local factory. So I think these are really wonderful diaries.
Oh, nice. Give us a pic of that book, okay? We'd love to show the books. And give us a pic of some of the pages where you went just batshit crazy ki yaar ye kaise kar diya vagara vagara. I'm assuming you were talking to yourself on those pages, so anything which we can share with the folks. Cool, awesome. Eshani, I don't know what else. I could just keep going on, and I would love to have sessions with you slightly more academic, because the amount of self-chat that you've done, very few aspirants would know to do that. And if someone can do it in his first attempt, I see no reason why they wouldn't crack it, because I think that was the be-all, end-all of your final X-Factor trick, right? Mm-hmm. Great. Last question. What was the best part of this chat for you? I thoroughly loved it, and I came into it without knowing anything that what we're going to talk about. But for you, what was this chat like?
Sir, I think it's raw and real, sir. So I don't have to share my notebooks. I don't have to recall words like spectrum, Lakshmika, Nitin Singhani. I like that about this session. Okay. And this is actually a so-and-so mock interview where I'm not talking about my DAF, because I gave all my mocks in this background.
Right.
I'm very happy that the last memory of this setting is a little less academic. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Cool. Awesome. Great. Now you have, let's say, 3 to 5 minutes. and this is just your monologue. If this video were to get like X million views and every beginner would listen to you first, what are some of the things that you would talk about this journey? Matlab, summarize this whole journey in the philosophy manner that you want to. Just take the center stage.
Sir, I would like to say, if everyone can understand that there is a dichotomy of control, this is a concept I've learned in Stoicism. There is a dichotomy of control. It means there is a part which you can control completely, and that is only your habits and your emotional intelligence. What you cannot control is the competition, the question paper, the examiner, the peers, the toppers. So we need to stop thinking about what we can't control. We get caught up in that. We think, oh, the results are coming today. I need to start thinking about where am I ranking? But you can't predict that at all, because once you have good habits, this is in your control. So I think when you really clearly know there's a dichotomy in life, I cannot control this and I can control this, everything falls in place. Anxiety, impatience, fear of failure, confusion about exams, where to study from, a lot of it. Just good habits is your destiny, and that's what you can control. This is what I would like to tell everyone.
Nice, super. I think with everything that you say, I keep reminded of other stuff that I can digress the strategy, which I'll tell you what I'm reminded of now. One of my colleagues, Prayas, he once wrote a memo to the students, and he said that most of the people have goals, but rankers have a system, which is kind of a process that you follow day in, day out, day in, day out. And the goal is an incidental benefit of that.
That is very
like
true.
Rookies have goals. I want to do this, I want to do that. The mature folks have a system.
Yes.
And I think the right wisdom kind of wraps up all these concepts in one way or the other and presents to you the same thing, different packaging. Great stuff for the 5-minute thing. Great, Eshani. Had a blast talking with you, Abhi. I hope we connect again. I'll make sure to send you 2 amazing books. Give me a sense of your library. Just rotate the camera slightly. I want to have a... Oh, wow, it's great.
So that is a book on... This is my Jane Austen. This is a lot of my Behave. This is the Dravidian model because of my DAF. I have a book, very nice book on oxymorons, which I love a lot. This is a book on anthropology.
Which one? What's the book on oxymoron?
It's called Oxymoronica.
Okay.
It's a very interesting book. Okay. It talks about different oxymorons in life. For example, people have one thing in common, that they're all different. So it has a lot of these nice quips.
There's a Brit called G.K. Chesterton. If you've read his quotes, guy is like witty as hell. I don't like I don't remember any of him. Like read him 5 years ago, but ekdam must. There's Guns, Germs and Steel also, right? Or something like that.
Yes, that's a very nice. It's very anthropology related. It's a very good book.
Correct. Have you read this book, The Hard Things About Hard Things?
No, sir.
That's a favorite book to gift everyone. Okay, cool. That's the first book. In this preparation, because you went inwards, so as to say, did you also read about philosophy? Did you also read philosophical texts?
So
what
much,
were some of your favorites?
I have a book called Daily Stoic. I have a lot of books on Stoicism. Yes, Ryan Holiday and Marcus Aurelius. A lot of it. I think my favorite quotations are, we suffer more in our mind than in reality. That was given by a lot of Stoics. We suffer more in our mind than in reality. So I have read a lot on philosophy also. So as much as I can, slowly might migrate into Indian philosophy also, hopefully.
Cool. Awesome. I'll send you a book written by an Italian journalist who was either in New York Times or some good New York newspaper. He was diagnosed with cancer, 3rd stage or so. And because his reporting mostly was in Indian subcontinent, India, China, Japan, and Southeast Asia, he came back after having done the first round of chemo. He came to India and then, stayed in some of these philosophical ashrams, so as to say. And because he's a journalist, and Westerners are very open and very candid about what they experience. There's no dogma or anything. Soch kuch rahe, lik kuch rahe. He writes in a very nice way. And the book's name is One Last Time on the Merry-Go-Round. That this is my last merry-go-round trip. It's very nice. And that got translated to English 10 years after. And it got published, I think, 4 years ago or so. It's a nice book. So these 2 books, we'll send it to you and hope you enjoy them. And don't forget to send the pics of the diaries. Don't forget to send the pics of your post-its, especially if you have from the prelims, and some of your notes, how you used to journal. That would be something we'll show it to our students.
Certainly, sir.
Great. I had a great time chatting with you, and I look forward to see when you have time. Just go slightly into the more academic aspects of some of these prep, but the quirky side, the your side, the way you figured things out yourself. Okay.
Certainly, sir.
Take care. Great.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much, sir, for having me here, and I hope people are able to pick up nuances from the conversation. It'd be wonderful if it's helpful.
I sure do. I sure do. I think people should pick up nuances and then drop in the comments if there's anything that they would want you to go deeper with, because I think there's a lot, that you can share,
Certainly.
given right comments and right questions. Okay, Shani, take care.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good evening.